So good evening, welcome to, has anybody the thing for translation? Yes, okay. Good evening, welcome to the lecture of TON MATTON. His title is Performative Urban Planning, taking the example of Great Potyomkin Street, Wittenberg, 2012. The program of events this year is called Cities, Basis for Art, Politics and Living. And TON MATTON is our last lecture. I would like to present to you briefly TON MATTON, and then also Charlotte Cullinan, who is going to be the respondent to TON MATTON. As you know, teachers of the Summer Academy, those who are guiding courses, are the respondents to the lecturers, and she's giving the course There is so much still to be learned at Saturn. TON MATTON was born in the Netherlands, and he is an urban planner, an architect as far as I know, activist and also an artist. He runs a large estate structured like a small village between Hamburg and Berlin, with guest studios, a workshop, plants and animals. The MATTON office and the Wendorf Academy are based in the former GDR primary school in Wendorf near Schwerin. TON MATTON participated with its projects in exhibition, including the Royal Institute of British Architects in London, the Stadtgalerie in Berlin, and the GEM in The Hague. I can highly recommend his webpage, which is mattonoffice.org. I will also present to you Charlotte Cullinan, that there is a possibility that she answers immediately after the talk. Charlotte Cullinan is based in London, is currently Professor of Fine Art at Kingston University, London. She has worked with Janine Richards since 1998 as an artist duo, Cullinan Richards, working primarily with within the area of painting and relationship of paintings to the structures of exhibition, as well as painting as performance. And she had a project, an ongoing project with this artist duo in Eastern London. So I'm very happy you're here, and I look forward to this talk now. Thank you, welcome with me, TON MATTON.
Since the camera is now here, I will change position to bring some stress. Yes, hello, thank you for the invitation. It's my first time in Salzburg, but I will speak English.
The thing is, if you don't have a micro, then the video has problems.
So, I take a micro that the video don't have problems. Anyone has problems with the micro? No? Okay. Yeah, I brought some projects I did, and I will explain them, and in these projects try to explain my thinking and my working. The first one is a quick one that you get used to my voice, and it's a very old one as well. It's one of the first projects I did as an urban planner coming from the Netherlands. Maybe every one of you have been there. In the Netherlands you have an awful lot of suburb. Actually, Holland is a suburb. And as urban planner, I'm not really feeling happy with that, because for me it's sort of the political compromise. Instead going left or going right, we go in the middle, and if the middle becomes the goal, there is no debate anymore, and then yeah, it's the compromise. And for me the suburb is this urban compromise. So one of the first ideas we had was in the 90s, where the starting of this eco-thinking. And in the Netherlands we have an island, we have 5 of them. They are close to Germany. It's called the Waddeneilanden. Sorry? and the Waddeneilanden. And the Waddeneilanden, they move. Like all, not all, but a lot of islands in the world, they are made of sand, these ones. And because the sea is streaming, the island moves. But since, I forgot the date, 1758, I think, or 57, there was this guy in Holland, he was called Johan van Deventer, the first guy who draws the map of the country. And if you draw a map of the country, that's very easy for ships sailing around, that they know where the islands are. So, since we mapped the island, it is important that the island stay there. Otherwise, the map is not accurate anymore. So what they do is every couple of years, they come with a big ship and then they pump the sand. The island tends to move that direction. They pump the sand from there, back there, to have the island stay on its place. The good thing is we have Google Earth now, so we don't need maps anymore. We can navigate on real-life images. So we made a proposal and say, let the island move. And one day this island, this is Texel, I think, it will be German. And the good thing is that in a democracy, and probably you all have the same experiences I have, always when you go on a holiday and you want to live on the sea, you look for a hotel on the sea and you book it and you come there and then you're never on the boulevard but always the street behind the boulevard. But they made a picture that it looks like if it's on the boulevard, but you are in the second line. And so we say if the houses are movable, the island will move, it will walk away under the houses. So once this guy living here, he's then living on the beach. 3 years later, the island moved, he's living in the sea, the beach is behind, so he picks up his house and put it in the end, and 20 years later he's back on the beach again. So it's a very democratic model of well, that's, so now you know my voice. This is the sort of thinking I start with in my office. It was in Rotterdam at that time. This is more or less the same. I'm a very big fan of all these eco techniques, like solar water, rainwater for drinking, for washing machines. If you use solar energy, you don't have to save energy anymore. You can spill it, which is really nice, because there's so much solar energy which you only have to collect it. So what we did here is we make a proposal that you can live in the nature, which is not allowed in the Netherlands. We have one nature area left. It's not allowed to live there. But we make a proposal, you live there on a platform, there's no infrastructure, because the big problem of all those suburbs is infrastructure. The only reason that we build all those houses together is that they can share one water pipe or one sewage canal to make it more cheap. So it has nothing to do with how we want to live, it's only techniques who make this. Well, I will come to this later. I hate this microphone, can we do it on another? It's for the film. So if I put it here, you can still hear me? Yes, very good. Okay, so what we do as urban planners, or also as people, most of the people nowadays live in a city. Any one of you is not living in a city? Who lives on the countryside? 3. It's only 3. Me too. So we are a majority. No? Minority. We are a minority. And this shows this technical infrastructure. The only reason we keep chicken like this is not that we want the chicken to live like this. It's that we want chicken to be very, very, very efficient. It's only about efficiency of getting in the food, getting out the eggs, and getting out the shit. Then we invited the free-range chicken. Free-range chicken means this. There we have the suburb chicken. That's and this is the happy chicken. These are mine. I have chicken where I live, so I moved from Rotterdam to Wendorf, which is a very small village in the former East Germany. And in Rotterdam I was vegetarian, and in Wendorf I'm slaughtering my own chicken. Yeah, and I only can advise it. The city is not a prison, you can leave. You don't have to stay there. So I sold my city apartment in Rotterdam, and from the price, the overprice, I bought this building, and this building means this is the goes there. That's my, and then there's this one. I bought 84 times as much space as I had in Rotterdam. The price in Rotterdam nowadays is like 350 euro the square meter. I bought it for 50 cents, which means 700 times less. Probably Salzburg will be the same as Rotterdam or more. Probably more, but let's have to say 700 times. So you can earn 700 times less money, which means you have to work 700 times less. If you work 70 hours in a week, you can do it in 1 hour. That's only 70 less. So in fact, you only have to work 1 minute per week. If you only have the guts to move to the countryside in the former Eastern Germany. Well, just a hint, do what you want. So I bought this building, and then in this building I try, with all those eco-techniques, I try to make it self-sufficient. It was in my early days of architecture, and I thought self-sufficiency is better. So collecting rainwater, making a shower with cleaning filtration systems inside. That you take a shower and the water is cleaned at the same time, and then you can reuse it. Making compost toilet, because if you have a compost toilet you don't need a sewage system. You shit and you put some straw in it, it mixes, there's bacteria who are cleaning it, and you have fertile earth in the end. Very nice system. I built a kitchen with the same with the cleaning filter inside as well. So you do the dishes, the water goes in these layers. In the layers it's filtered and cleaned by bacteria. There's a cold filter which takes out the bacteria. And in the end the water you can pump it up again and you can do the dishes again. Or this fridge on an ice block. It's a very old system. You can order an ice block on the internet. They deliver it by DHL. And they don't care where you live, so you can be anywhere. You order an ice block, they will bring it, and you don't need any electricity. You have a beautiful fridge, and we make this one for 1 week. And the nice thing is that the fridge is always too cold in our houses, and we put everything in the fridge. I read in the newspaper last week. And this fridge, the temperature here is very good for white wine, and here it's warm, and this is for the butter that you can. And then the ice block melts down during the week. So, and then I planted a forest for the oven to get warmth. I planted a banana tree because climate change is coming, and I learned that the climate of France will come to Mecklenburg. And then I read somewhere that the wine farmers already now invest in Sweden. And it's not funny, it's true. If they invest in Sweden, that means that they are thinking on how to survive in the future as a wine farmer. And then probably in their option, in their vision, Mecklenburg is already Sahara. Because Sahara is coming to the north. So that's why I start bananas, and I make this banana machine. There's, you can see it here, there's a shower, you can see there. There's this, I'm Dutch, so there's this glasshouse light, and there's a phone here. so that the banana tree can already start to use on our climate change, that it will rain heavily, there will be too much sun, and it will be hot wind. And you can learn him to survive. Because it's the only way that this banana tree will survive in the end, is that he learned to adapt our climate change. In the meantime, the wood is grown already quite big. This is the same picture you saw 13 years ago where I planted the trees. Now they are big and I'm harvesting already for the oven. And I realized 2 years ago that I bought a school for any and then I was thinking, why am I always the stupid professor traveling to universities if I have my own school? So I declare it the Wendorf Academy and start teaching there. Stupid enough, I just received a job in Linz last month, so coming year I will be teaching in Linz, which is not around the corner, but this will be, well, I have to find out how I can connect this, but I have my own academy, the Wendorf Academy, and what we do there is teaching, in a way, urban living on the countryside, you can say. Because this only works because of internet. I'm working there exactly the same as I worked in Rotterdam when I lived there. I go to my office in the morning, I do all my stuff in the computer, I mail everyone around, tell them how it's going, and then the difference is in the city. After the lunch, you have this lunch dip. You all know the lunch dip? That at 3 you're sitting on a computer, pretending to work, waiting till 5 and you can go home. And if you live on the countryside, these 2 hours you can go outside. And you feed the chicken, or you do some gardening, or cut some wood, which is much, much, much more efficient. So I will stop. So that's how I'm teaching in Wendorf. It's all over internet, and the nice thing is that although this is the surrounding where I'm working, on the same time this is the result of the work exhibited in the Museum of Rotterdam, without me being there. And that's fantastic. That's possible, it's really, really incredible that we can live in a world where you don't have to be all the time on all those places that you work. So as an urbanist, it makes me think we can organize ourselves in a complete other way. We don't have to live in this prototype of everyone gathering around in the city, although we have all the equipment that we can be somewhere else in the same time. So actually, after this half an hour introduction, I think it's quite stupid if you stay in the city, because it costs you a lot of money, there's a lot of people around you, and you don't need them around you that close. If you have the communication equipment, and we all have. So it changed my vision on urban planning, and I escaped more or less. Well, I'm trying to yeah, good question. What am I trying? I'm searching for a way how we can combine these methods, because in the same time, because everyone living in the city, we forget about this countryside living. There's only the nostalgic idea of big city people who come to the countryside and think that there is something like a countryside, but the people in my village where I live, they have the same jobs like everyone else. They are truck driver, or they work in Hamburg in the insurance company, or the only thing is they live in this village. And in the beginning I also thought there is a village and there's me, but there is no such thing as a village. It's global city like everywhere else in the world. So in that, there's one other anecdote I would try to explain, which was quite important for my thinking. It was 2001. I was invited in an art project in Sao Paulo. And the idea was, it was the first ring of 1800 buildings around the center. The idea was that if you invite artists in this area, they start to work there, it will bring a lift up the area. And so I went there to visit, and this is the area, and well, nothing wrong in a way. So I spent there some days thinking, what can I do there? What is there to do? And in fact, the only thing I noticed is that there was a lot of children living on the street, and they were not, in a way, they were not allowed there. This is just normal shops, people selling, I don't know, tablecloths or tablecloths. It's just shops. And there's a lot of cars driving around, and there was no place for children, so we proposed to make an, what is it, gymnasium? A sporthalle? Yeah, but inside. If you play sport inside the turnhalle. What's the turnhalle? And can you translate the other way around?
Gym.
A gym, thank you. If we have gym in the school and the teachers say we play basketball, everyone knows it's the red lines. And if he say we play volleyball, everyone knows it's the blue lines. Or the yellow, I don't know, but it's, the system is quite clear. So we say, when we put this structure on the floor, then we can combine different functions, and if you realize what's going on, you will see, you can read it on the street. That was the idea of, so what we say is, when you make sport fields, and you make parking lots, so here you see the red is the parking lots, the moment there's a car parked on that spot, you can't play anymore. And there's someone seeing, and then you only see the red lines. But if there is no car, and the children are playing basketball, then you see the yellow lines, and then the car won't park there, because he see the yellow lines, because he bring the yellow lines. I will explain it, and then you will understand. The nice thing is, that was, in fact, this is just a proposal I did in my office, sent by fax to Sao Paulo. This is the proposal. Yes, thank you, very nice. We will do it for you. The opening is then and then. And then some faxes, how precisely do you want this, what happens there, etc. So I was thinking there's a team in Sao Paulo making this proposal real. Then I went there for the opening. I arrived on Friday evening, Saturday morning was the opening. And I arrived and I say, hey, hello, let's have a look, how does it look? And they say, yes, sorry, we didn't start yet. And for me that was a sort of moment, I said, shit. I'm coming from Europe to South America to an opening of a project, and the project is not there. And of course it's Brazil, amanhã, and they say they will do it tomorrow, and then it starts raining, and there was no tomorrow. So I was at the opening, and I really feel sort of, embarrassed or ashamed or ugly or like. And I decided I go there and I start. So I did. I went to the street. I find some old bricks, thank you. And I start to draw on the street the idea I had in my mind. Immediately there were some children living there and they start to help. And I discovered the paint shop. So I organized some paint and more people started to help. And it turned out to be a fantastic party. All during the day we start to, and then the organization came in with a truck and they started to help, and I bought food for everyone, and it sort of street party started, which was of course now much more nicer than being in an opening where someone else was paid to do this job. So I had a lot of contact with people, and the street became alive, and I spent there a week. Of course, there was not enough money for, so we didn't paint the yellow, we just left it, well, we played to make it minimum. And we worked like dogs. And I realized this is urban planning. Urban planning is not pretending to make something in an office from another side of the world, sending faxes, and then think you are influencing the world. Urban planning means that you are in the city and that you are working with the people living there. Urban planning is not about houses or streets, but it's about people. And somehow I forgot it, or I didn't watch carefully enough in the school, I don't know. I think I watched carefully in the school. I see all my colleagues making the same mistakes all the time. But for me it was this sort of eye-opener that it was much more fun doing it on the spot. And it changed my opinion about what urban planning should be. And the funny thing was that this was where I always went for lunch during the week, and they wanted to have a terrace, that they were part of the project as well, so they take some paint. And the nice thing is that when we finished, you see here how it works. Those children are playing volleyball, and this guy is still parked in this system of parking lines. But because they start playing volleyball, they had power. They had the power of the lines on the street telling them this is the volleyball field. So what happens is that they gather some people and they remove the car. So only by putting some lines on the street gives these children the power to rearrange the function of the street. So I was very happy, nice project, but especially because it changed my my point of view of what a city is and what we mistaking all the time by thinking that it is. I can give it is this fascination that we have for technique. Watch here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 machines surrounding here, and you are in the back. The B seats, the technique takes over, so probably this is more important than you. And it's this fascination of the technique, what we always, and of course I have the same fascination. It is brilliant, but the question is, why does it take over our living, and why are we not strong enough to say, this is it, we don't want it, we don't need it, or I don't want it, I don't need it, and why are we always behind? And it has to do with this profession of architecture and urban planner, where a lot of people go and study this because they like this technique, because a house is more than art. A house is about technique. You have to make a structure that it not collapse, so it has this part in it. But it's funny how it's taking over our life. I have another anecdote. And it's not only technique, but in the meantime, I think it's also our belief in money. The belief that when it's not about money, that it is not good or not true. That's the other story I want to tell. It's the Potemkinsche Straße. We have time, so I can make anecdotes. Is it okay? Okay. I lived there in the north of Germany, which is the poorest part of, well, not anymore, but since last week it was the poorest part. Now they discovered that the cities are more poor than the countryside. They recalculate in the Süddeutsche Zeitung, I read an article. So I'm not in the poor part anymore. And, but there are a lot of people who moved away from East Germany, from Mecklenburg, to find a job somewhere in the West. And there's a lot of villages who has problems with that, because there's a lot of villages who has not enough people to have enough children to go to the school, or to have enough patients to have a doctor, or things like that. And I met a guy one evening. He was cameraman, and he made a portrait of a mayor of a small village, the village of Wittenburg. And he told me that it was a very nice guy. He was really involved in his city, and he had a problem because there were 14 houses in his main street were empty. And 14 houses in a village of 4,000 people is quite a lot, and it's depressing. And as cameraman, he made this portrait of the mayor where he explained about the city. And I told him the joke, which I remember from a comic book about Idi Amin. Idi Amin in
Africa.
Africa, yeah, I was thinking of the country. Uganda. Okay, Idi Amin, I don't know why I know it, but I read it in a comic book. He made villages from cardboard. And there was a Dutch football team visited Uganda, and they were showing the country, and they see all the same villages because they're just replacing the cardboards. I tell this joke to this cameraman, and we laughed about it, and then we say, let's tell the joke to the mayor. So he had the mayor in his telephone, he made an appointment, we went to this mayor, and I tell them the joke about Idi Amin. And in this, it was in the city city council meeting, there was a lady, and she said, "That's Potyomkin," she said. She knows Russian. And Potyomkin is this Russian guy who made villages out of cardboard to impress the Tsar Katerina, 1887 or so. So she took this story, and my proposal in that to the mayor was, why not do this? Why not making cardboard houses in front of these demolished houses? Because you're living in a village where people now, 20 years after the turning of the wall, what is it? The falling of the wall. If you live 20 years in a street with all those empty houses, you're getting depressed. And we went in the street, we talked to people, and they only told the stories what went wrong. This guy tried to renovate his house, but he divorced, no more money. This house, no one can renovate because it belongs to some grandchildren of the owner, and the grandchildren live far away in Siberia. We don't know where, and then you can't do anything. So there was a lot of reasons why all those houses were broken, but the fact that everyone knew these reasons, that was for me more astonishing. That the houses were empty, I knew that from this whole area, but that everyone had the same negative stories. So I proposed to Mayor, let's build Cardboard City, Potyomkin's street, and then you make a new story. And if you have a new story, you can maybe attract other people. And if you attract other people, then more new stories start. And then you can start to reset the thinking of a village. I didn't give him any guarantee, but my thinking was, if you believe 20 years after the wall that capitalist system can save you, because he was only looking for money. He was always looking, can we have Volkswagen build a factory in our village, and then they have people working there, and then you can start, and Volkswagen don't want to go there because they have 1,000 other cities with the same problems. So the mayor was very brave. He said, okay, let's give it a start. And I wrote him a proposal to do this. And since I'm urban planner, it was an urban planning proposal. And the good thing about urban planning compared to art is that if it's urban planning in Germany, you have this funds for city renovation, that 1/3 is paid by the city, 1/3 is paid by the land, and 1/3 is paid by the Bund. Then I wrote this proposal. The mayor sent it to the Ministry of Urban Planning, and they sent back a letter. What a nonsense! This has nothing to do with urban planning. And so I went back. I went to the mayor again, and he showed me the letter. And it was. I'm not sure if the sentence was what a nonsense, but it was a sort of insulting. And in that time, I was professor of urban planning in the Wismar University. Wismar is Mecklenburg-Vorpommern. So I took the telephone, I called the minister, and I say, hey, I have here a letter which says this is not urban planning, but I'm teaching as professor of urban planning. So who knows what is urban planning? I think I know. Then I had, was very good, that's a nice thing about a small country, that you were very small. I'm not sure who is the minister here in Austria, but can you call him like, hey, let's talk?
No, only the mayor.
Only the mayor, not you. Okay, well in Mecklenburg as professor you can do. Well, at least, I don't know, I'm Dutch, so I thought I could do, and I did. And actually, I didn't speak to the minister himself, but to the, that's better, the first one in the office. And he said, okay, let's have an appointment. And in that, if it's too much anecdote, you can tell, then I continue in the project. But I think it's important to explain that it's not easy going. Taking the telephone to call a minister, you need to have this energy or this guts to do it. And I thought in that moment I was really offended by this letter. Because it was like all the things I learned in Sao Paulo, if it was not true, if that was not true urbanism, but there's another urbanism which has to do with money and regulations and asphalt, and if that is the only true urbanism. So I took the telephone, I called him, I make an appointment, and then it changed because I have a very funny dialect, you already noticed. And then, in a way, he said, okay, you have this, he gave me an assistant from the ministry to write again this letter in another language which they could understand as urban planning. And that was brilliant, because then I was in, and of course they couldn't say no in the end, so there was a lot of money, and we can start working. So what we say is, okay, we have 14 empty houses, we make 14 workshops, where from the workshop with the people we will think of an idea of a new facade we can hang in front of this house. That was in fact, the idea with which we started. This is the city, and in fact this is the main street. This is the part downtown, Große Straße, and in this part there's 40 empty houses, and it's empty because this is the new highway from Hamburg till Berlin. And they make then from the highway this bypass, which in one thinking it's very good to have a bypass, because then you don't have all the traffic through the city. But the consequence is that the main street is empty because no one comes there anymore. So we make this is the 14 empty houses, and you can imagine something. This is normal daily life in a small village in Mecklenburg. You have houses like this, empty for 20 years. No one knows what to do with it. No one cares. It's not true, but it's not. No one has the power to do something, because there's thousands of reasons why you can't do it. And everyone thinks it has to do with money. That's the big failure in all of our thinking. And what we try to explain to the mayor is that it has nothing to do with money. What you need is people. Because if you have people who live in this house, they can start renovating. And they won't do it tomorrow that's why you need money, is that especially in Germany, I can say. Any Germans in the audience? Okay, too much. Well, they always want to renovate in this ochre. They want to paint everything ochre, and it should look new. And then they have this funny idea that if you have a big isolation, that it's better. So that's killing renovation all over the country. But if you just sell it to someone who wants to live there, and then he can start. You repair one window, and if you have some money, you repair the next window, and then slowly you can start living there. And then you have someone who lives there, who goes to the bakery every day, who goes to the Fleischer every day. That's what the city needs. And you don't need someone with money, because when you have money nowadays, the only thing you want is 7%. Maybe today already 4%, and you're satisfied, but it's only about more money. So if you have money, you renovate it for 2 million, and then you find, how do I get my 2 million back? Yeah, that's killing in a city, because that's not what that's China, they're doing now in China. In China, there's millions of those houses are being built, not because people want to live there, but because people want to make 7% rendite with it. That's the system of all those skyscrapers. They're all empty. People think they can make 7%, and we know from our finance crisis that in the end this will go wrong. So if you have money, you think in more money. If you have, I have a nice anecdote about that. Some years ago, my mother asked me, I don't know, we were talking about this finance crisis, and then I said, Mother, listen, when I was a kid, my father was bricklayer, and every Friday evening he got home with some bricks and a bucket of cement, and he started everywhere in the house there was rebuilding all the time, because he had this on Friday evening. Then when I was a student, I worked in a bakery, and every Friday or Saturday evening I went home with a package of cake. Because the leftovers of the week you take home. So I said, Mom, listen, if you work in a bank, of course every Saturday evening you go home with the leftovers of the week. That's in every business, that's the way how it works. And that's why I was very smart, and that's why I like teaching. Because if you teach, in the end of the week you come home with all the leftover ideas which all the students taught you in the week. And the thing is that it is, of all those 4 examples, the money is the worst. It's not fun going home with a plastic bucket of money every Friday evening. It's much more fun to come home with a plastic bucket of ideas. Or cake. So, to make short story long, these were the houses, this was the idea. I have to go in the city council in a very small East German city where they never heard of the word gentrification and they didn't know about Bilbao effect, which was very, very, very nice that they didn't know, because then it was not selbstverständlich, it was not obvious that it's going this way. So you have to explain them. And if you explain gentrification, then in the explanation you think, what's wrong with gentrification? In a village like this, it's heaven. They want these 5 artists coming to their city, taking an old house and start to live there, and then in the hope that something else will start. So in effect, gentrification itself, it's becoming a bad word because of Hamburg and Berlin. But in fact, if you are an artist in this gentrification, it's only about money. You should be proud that as an artist you can have influence on the world, that you start in an old shabby house and 20 years later it's the most expensive part of the town. Then you did a really, really, really good job. The worst job is that you want to make money with this idea, because then better go work for a bank and stop being an artist. Okay, having said that, we went in the street. This guy, the owner of this house, lived in Hamburg. We find out, we called him and we said, we want to use your old house in Wittenburg. And he said, okay, do what you want, kick in the door, I don't care, I don't have no interest in the house. So we kicked in the door, we repair the window, as you see, and we invite all the neighbors in the village. We say, tonight the cafe reopens. Bring your own glasses, your own drinks, and your own chairs. We steal the energy from the lamppost. And of course, stealing energy from a lamppost in a project where the mayor said, or the city council said, okay, let's do it. It's not really stealing, because they knew. But they knew as well, if they say no, yeah, the project will stop very quick. So it was no problem. We make a light. And we open a bar. In fact, this is Lucas Bush, one of the teachers who should have been here, but he will come back next year. I invited 5 artists to help me in this project, in a way, or that we were a team, that you can't beat a village in your own, you need a team, and we start playing city, in this city where they in fact forgot that they were a city. So we opened the bar, there were like 10 people coming, and we invite all the owners of the houses and all the industrial guys of the village. There are some factories. In fact, there's one factory of Dr. Oetker. You all know Dr. Oetker. He's making pizza in Wittenberg. You know how much? 2 million a day.
A day?
A day. 16 trucks. 60 trucks. So we invited the house, the owners, and the industrials, and I invited them in an old house where we clean the carpet. We make a sort of breakfast for them, and this was the atmosphere. They were very closed, but they were there at least. And I was like a priest, very moral, and I blamed them for not taking care of their city. And there were 3 different, this was the round with the house owners, and they all had the same problem. They say, I have this house, I want to renovate it, of course I want, but for this renovation I need money, and the bank won't give me money, because I don't have enough money for myself, and they won't have the risk in the bank. And the industrials say we have, in fact they have this industrial area next to the main street, and no, doesn't matter. I told them, if you don't have money, you can combine. If you have 16 people with not enough money, with 16 people you can do one house. So I tried to make a group out of them, that they were stronger. If you go with 18 people to the bank and say, we have 18, a little money, then they will give money for one house. And if this house functions, you can go to another house. I like the idea still, but it was too much because it is also in a little village. They hate, this one hates the other one, and the other one is fighting, and their grandfathers already didn't play with each other. You know, it's very, very, very complicated. But what is nice is that you thought them thinking like, hey, we never thought about that. Everyone is thinking for himself, and they all had the same problem. Everyone wanted to renovate, but no one had this money of the bank. So we started to play with this idea of these houses. This one was already covered, and we added some pictures of the famous people of the village. We make a birdhouse. We make a postcard house where you can send postcards to your neighbors, to the mayor, to Angela Merkel, to Goethe, to Superman, to Barack Obama, to 62 different people, and we give them a postcard. This was the runner, because then suddenly there's a post box in the street and people pass by, they have postcards for free, and they start writing postcards to each other, and they all put it in, and in the end we open it and make an exhibition of the postcards. We built a theater. This is the post box real, the other one was Photoshop. And we make a tango dance evening, where we invited some tango dancers, and this was we did 3 workshop weeks. And this was in the first workshop week we started with a cafe, there were like 20 people. This was the first evening in the end of that week where we start to have the feeling that we were winning. There were not 20 people, but 100 people. The tango dancers was a tango dance course from Schwerin, from the local big city, which we invited to do an evening tango dance in this village. And there were a lot of people coming to watch. And suddenly you feel that the street was coming alive again. Then we had Lukas Pusch as a Wiener artist, and he proposed to build a mountain in the village. Probably because he was from here. And also he did the opening of the gallery. So the gallery opened in Wittenburg, and this was the opening. We made a school where we invite people to teach, and they come. One week there was every evening we had lectures from local people and from us. We had Dr. Oetker we asked him to feed one day the city. And he came with his oven, and we have 500 people we feed with pizza, so we had a restaurant. There was one, in the city council, there was a wish for a kindergarten, childcare. And they wanted a childcare on the industry area, where also the Penny Markt and the Aldi Markt and the Dr. Oetker and all the... And then we said, that is a stupid idea. If you have a city where 14 houses are empty, don't bring your childcare outside the city on the industry area. And then they said, okay, it's difficult in the main street and we don't find a place. And it's not difficult. You only have to do it. We were strong at that moment, so we order a truck of sand, and we order the kindergarten to have a day fun outside, and we say, okay, you have your kindergarten in the main street. It was 10 minutes of work. It is that simple. Of course, if you follow all the rules, this is not allowed, because no one knows if there shits a dog in the sand, and then the sand is not allowed for a kindergarten, and things like that. But you have to think on other solutions, and that worked. We were convincing more and more, and then in one lecture, in this workshop weeks, we did a lot of talking with all the people in all those houses, and then one night I explained, or I mentioned actually, the wild knitting. Do you know wild knitting in Salzburg? where people make funny.
Oh, guerrilla knitting, you mean?
What you call it? Guerrilla knitting.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
In Germany it's wild knitting, but here it's already guerrilla knitting, and they make these horrible bicycles with funny colored. And there were some old ladies. There were only old ladies in Mecklenburg. There's no young people. And they say, we're going to knit. We will knit a house. And I say, okay, I make a drawing of a house. You're going to knit, but we make it architectural. We make it really nice. They immediately say, we want to make it bunt, colorful. I said, no way, I'm here the designer, it will be really straight, modernistic architecture what we're knitting, and you are the masters. And so I say, I deliver you the wool, and then you can start. They call immediately the next day, where's the wool? I say, I'm organizing it. Day after, where's the wool? We want to start. I'm still organizing, because I want to have it sponsored for free, etc., etc., and they were calling. And then the fourth day, they say, we started. And I said, okay. And of course they started with everything they have in their, and it was colorful as could be. They even made it inside one, they wanted to make 50 by 50s, and even inside the 50 by 50 they managed to make it more colorful. So in a way I hated it, but in the other way it was really, really strong work. They have 800 kilometers of working, and if you see here, we order a net where they could attach it, because if you hang the wool in itself, it's too heavy, it will go. And the ladies, they were really like, day after day, hour after hour, they were working like this. And they were like from 70 till 90. And I was only afraid if one of those ladies died. But they managed. And this is how it looked. Then they wanted a park house, because they still have this sort of funny ideas that they are a city and a city needs a park house. And I said, okay, you want a park house, you get a park house. We called MVRDV architects, and they designed this park house. This was inside. And I found already an internet selfie that it was, the loft couple was working. And I invited Benedetta Hengst, musician from Berlin, musician, a woman, lady. Okay. And she started the complainment choir. Maybe you know, it's a sort of, okay, you know. So she did 1 week complainments choir, was really, really funny, where everyone starts to complain, also complain about the complaints the others make. And then we did a demo through the city. And the song was called Die große Straße führt hier raus, which means, in English, the main street is taking you out. So that's why we also make the U-Bahn station next to the Rathaus. And the really, really nice thing what happens, I was there one morning at 6 o'clock, and I'm not really a fan from German humor, but at 6 o'clock in the morning I found 4 guys, they were the street layers, and I asked them, can you pretend that you come out of the... And they say yes. And since then, I'm a big fan of German humor, that they are able to understand at 6 in the morning a joke like this. We made a cinema. From the Rathaus, we have a beamer, and we presented it on the other side of the street. We built a tribune on the walkway, and the cars were just driving through, the drive-through cinema. And then after, it was all the work from week after week, workshops, people, and what you see, what happened, maybe that's nice to, that this idea of this façade, that the idea was to make a new façade, but because there was in those workshops, there was so much energy of all those people that we became stronger ourselves as well, and we had the courage to do things like this. So we're not hanging a façade, but we managed to play in the public space with installations like this. And they won't give it back. I'm not enough an artist that I know who is the owner of this work. I made it, I designed it, I think about it, with the team of course. And now the city says, no, we paid for this. We leave it here. So it's still there. At the day of the opening there were 1,000 people in the street, which was never happened before in this history of the village. I brought 50 glasses. I expected like 50 people, maybe 100, and then you wash, but there was like 1,000. Everyone was completely überrascht, surprised. Thank you. Yeah. I still have some time left, if I'm right, because this was the good side of the. This is the project. In the meantime, 7 houses are sold. So I was there last year in January on the New Year's Eve, the New Year's speech of the mayor, and he still starts his speech with a really good joke. We wait 5 minutes for the last metro to come in. Brilliant. So I'm really happy with this project. Of course, you can only do a project with like this, because in the end, I'm not sure if this is urban planning or is it art, or is it a mixture. It's a mixture, of course. But I think it's how urban planning should be. That you much more think about cities with the people who are living in there, and that you try to have the energy of the people and do installations like this. And in the same time, I'm gone. You know, that's always a problem. You do a project, 1 year working, and then you're gone. And every now and then you can pop up at the New Year's speech, but they are now left alone. They have to continue in their city, and they have to run this project. And then, of course, I'm very glad that there are 7 projects, 7 houses sold. And then you need a long, it takes some time. So every now and then I pass by and see what happens. Okay, that was the good news of the evening. Now I'm going into the depression. For some years, I will make it a bit quicker. How much time do I have?
10 minutes?
10 minutes, okay. I will do a quick depression. For some years I tried to calculate how my effect on all the things that we as a society think is important. For example, I'm doing now this evening lecture. Of course, everyone knows that the energy running in this machine is green. Or is it?
No.
No? Why not?
Yeah, because there is not only green energy. It's a mixed energy.
Yeah, but if you want green energy, you can have it.
Yeah, but I don't think we would have to ask.
Where is it? So he's going. So we don't care. It's his fault that we are now watching all evening. It's 1 hour. Anyone has an idea how much energy we used? No one? 1 hour? A beamer use? Technician? How much does your beamer? How much energy? Huh?
I think 500 watts.
I think 1,000.
Maybe 1,000.
Maybe 1,000, yeah, I think it's 1,000, maybe 2,000. This one, 1,000, okay, let's have 1,000. 1 hour is 1 kilowatt hour. Yeah? You're still there? 1 kilowatt hour. How much does it cost? 1 kilowatt hour? Who cares? Who's paying the energy bill? No one cares? You see? It's horrible. That we all have every day in all the newspapers, we need green energy. Germany make a big event of getting rid of the nuclear power, and no one cares. I have a lot of solar energy on my roof on this big house. I have 25 kilowatts. I can now, as good guy, I can offer you that from this 25 kilowatt I have, that I give 25, that's the maximum. It's not that easy. I can pay for this energy that we have tonight. We did this lecture in green energy. Who wants to share the amount of money with me? Who's interested? Who wants to share? You have any idea what you're sharing in now?
No.
No idea? Anyone has an idea? How much is 1 kilowatt hour last time? No one knows? It's amazing, huh?
1 cent.
60 cents.
60 cents in Austria, or you're just gambling?
Just gambling.
In Germany it's 27 cents. So, give me 10. And we are the good guys of the evening, yeah? We saved your ass. Although Austria, you don't have nuclear power. in Austria?
No, yeah, we have.
Maybe it's not a big as team as in Germany, but it's amazing that no one knows. So I could have said it's 27 euro.
Yeah, but
Then you would have given me 10. And you would have paid for it. But I'm right, you would have paid for it. So it's very stupid that we don't know. So now we have the 1 hour, thank you, green energy. The consequence is that my washing machine is now doing 1 hour without green energy. In that sense, you were right. But I did this. I did the same with CO2. You invited me for a lecture tonight. Thank you for the invitation. It took me 1,200 kilometers by train. I can calculate how much. Train 250 kilometers is 25 gram. It's 200 gram of CO2 I produced by coming here and doing this lecture. For 200 gram, electricity, CO2. 200 gram is half an hour of the first 500 birch trees I planted in my house. So to have the balance. I did this 3 years for all the projects I was working on. Balancing, what am I doing? What am I using? When I go to a cafe or in the train, I buy coffee, and you have on the coffee you have this plastic tap. Only for 2 minutes of drinking coffee you have this plastic tap, which is 30 years somewhere in the ocean. It's so stupid, but by balancing it, it's in a way getting funny. Since then I'm only buying second-hand clothes. And I'm repairing them myself. Thanks for the compliment. The nice thing, everyone wearing white hams. Now it's architect's thing. If you have white hem, you have to wash it every day. But if you make it colorful like this, that's the dirty spots, you can wear it at least 3 days. Very nice. A bit of tail and it works. I have a new watch which you have to wind. It's very old. So there's no... I have bio trousers. No idea which slaves made it, but it's bio. Because in a way it's funny that we live in a society where... Is there any one of you knowing that the clothes they are wearing are not made by modern slaves?
Yes, I know.
You know.
They manufacture in Vienna.
And it's sure?
Yes, it's true.
Okay. You're really the good guy tonight. But isn't it funny that I'm good as well? So since we are the good guys, that we still want to deal and be in the same room with all those slave driver people here. It's amazing that we accept it, that we live in a society where we shout, all of us, we shout, we don't want it, and we all think, yeah, but I can't help it. I was in H&M and it was only €5. I couldn't leave it there. So I forget for 1 minute the dirt about it and I buy it and all my friends accept it. I told you not to smoke. I meant it. It's not good and I don't think you should change your habits, but I hope you do and I hope that someday I meet someone who stops doing this dirty thing. Because we are living in a world where we define everything as dirty, but we don't care. Well, you need more depression? There is one solution. Maybe I have a solution. Who wants to get rid of these slave clothes? The slave clothes. Okay, you go behind the wall and you undress, you put everything on a pile and then you can go out naked in the street and we... Now, the funny thing is, we have now that... it was in fact the pictures we are in I have 5 minutes left. I lived in a former socialist country where 25 years ago, they managed to get rid of their political system, the socialist system, because they don't agree with what the system tells is not the same thing as what they realize and what's happening in their real daily life. The socialist system talk a lot about sharing and everything owns to everyone, and there they found out that there was no bread in the shop and that the chief of the country was driving a big car. So they quit with the system, no one died, they just climbed the wall and they managed. It was the East Germans or maybe the Hungarian, it was not the West Germans. The West Germans take over as the winner, but it was not them who started the change of the system. Now we just found out 5 minutes ago that the majority of us is wearing clothes which they don't want. And our government tells, since they are neoliberal, that we can't fight this because if the consumer buys it, means that the consumer wants it. So if you tell now the minister, boycott H&M, close the shop because they are selling stuff from, not H&M, sorry, is it in the internet? Are you going to push it? It's not H&M, it's Zara. Zara. I read in the paper about Zara, H&M, I don't know. Oh, they will sue me. No, the thing is that we buy clothes that we don't want. And the politics says we can't fight this because if you buy it, you want it. And we say, no, we don't want it. But they say, yes, you bought it, so you want it. And then we say, no, we don't want it. And they say, yes, you bought it, so you want it. So we have now a political system which is in a way not telling or not doing what we want them to do. So we are living in a lie. And in a way you can say that this former East German guys were smarter because they managed to shift away the government, and we still accept it. Although we just proved that we don't want it, we are accepting the system. And that's in a way, and we have very, 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 very intelligent ways out.
Don't buy.
Sorry?
Don't buy.
We can't. Because the moment I come in a supermarket, there's a guy who is organizing the supermarket, and he knows exactly, if I'm playing this music on this moment, this guy who now entering my shop will grab the peanut butter. They know it. That's how they organize supermarkets. It's very, very, very intelligent, clever marketing thinking. And the thing is that I'm an individual, and there's a company fighting, and I can't win. It's the same as Wittenberg. There is the Pennymarkt, there is the Aldi-Markt, there is the Netto-Markt. They all go to these East German villages, the managers, and they say, we want to build a supermarket in your city. We're not going to build it in an empty house, we build it outside with a lot of parking space. Those guys who are doing this supermarket planning, they do it every day, at least in 100 villages a year. They are very, very professional. They know exactly how to grab the mayor, which wine he likes, how much money goes beyond the table. And that's, you can't win. You can't fight these systems. And that's how I feel if I go in a supermarket and I grab the peanut butter, and then I always think, oh no, they want me to grab this because of the music, I take this one. And at that moment, I don't know. Do they know this reaction and therefore play this music that I take this one? Or shall I take both? Or shall I don't? I don't know. You know, it's too complicated. And the politic is not helping us in this. We are alone. Well, last small quick project I want to show, that's because it's nice. I have 2 minutes left, or shall I stop? Or small pause? It's 1 minute. It's really quick. It's this is the house, East German house. It's called Type EW58. It's built 500,000 times in East Germany, and this is how it looks. And what was nice in East Germany, you buy the drawing of the house and the permission to build it. Then you go to the store of the material. It was a socialist system. It was not Bauhaus or how they called. It was the store of the village or something. And you have a paper which says you can have 3,000 roof tiles. You went to the material delivery and you said, I have here my check, 3,000 roof tiles. And then the guy says, sorry, they are not there. Socialist system, 5 years planning. They say they are there, on paper they are there, but there is nothing here. But I do have 3,000 bricks. then you say, okay, I take the bricks. Then you have at least something. You go home with the bricks, 10 minutes later there's another guy coming there, I have a leaflet, it says 3,000 bricks. Sorry, bricks are gone, I have cement. And then the system is already mixed. Then you are at home, you have 3,000 bricks, you need tiles, and you know there is a forester who needs a troubadour, the car. So you go to someone else to change the 2,000 bricks with a troubadour. You have a troubadour, you go to a forester and you say, I have a troubadour, I want 200 tiles. He said, no, I don't have them, but you can have wood. Then you have a package of wood, you know the Fleischer, he has a half a pig, you go with the wood for a pig, then you have a pig, and then you find someone who has tiles and he wants a pig, and then you have your tiles. That's, in a short version, how the system works. And that's why all the houses look different. Although all the plans say this is the same house, it's prefabricated system and it works, the houses are all different. There was a competition in Holland which asked for a simple house. And I said, it was a competition for a simple house. I say, I have a simple house, it's called IV58. Let's bring it from Germany to the Netherlands, and we do it with Chinese. Because in that day I read in the newspaper that the Chinese were buying steel factories from Germany. They tear them in small pieces, put them in a container, bring them to China and rebuild them. So I wanted to show the complexity of our world in this very, very, very simple house. So I found my Chinese, they're tearing down the house. And then we rebuild it in the Netherlands with all the materials we collected in East Germany. The rebuilding we do with former East German bricklayers and putzmänner. And that's what we are doing now. So I have collected the house. And this is, last week I put the tiles on the house. So we're going to rebuild. And the nice thing to end with the discussion where I started, and it looks like a very organized lecture. I started with this thinking about technology. And if you now go in the architecture, you see all those stories about recycling. And most of the stories is that we first have to build a new telephone, or a new kitchen, or a new car, to be able to recycle it in the future. Recycling is becoming a new technological thing to have us buying more and more stuff. And what we proved here is that recycling has nothing to do with better technology, it has to do with human energy. To collect all those roofs was a horrible work, I can tell you, to find all those old houses, to go on the roof, to get the stuff down, bring it over there, and build it again. But if you want, you can do it. So if you want, you can stop consuming. It's all about if you want or if you not want. And since the city is about humans, and we are human, it's all about what we want. That's a good conclusion. Thank you very much. Sorry for taking 5 minutes.
Thank you, Tom, for this very entertaining and also with stuff with ideas talk. And I think that, Charlotte, you're going to respond immediately. Is this true?
Yes. My first surprise question is, I'm quite surprised that you visit supermarkets.
You're surprised that I visit supermarkets?
Yeah.
Well, I have to eat.
But you can go to other shops.
Which shops?
Smaller shops.
Okay, that's the question. I only said that I'm a better human being when I was talking about my clothes. It's not about my food. No, I know, but I also try to explain that although I can, in the same time I can't. It's the world is too complex to fight it in your own. You never will win. And since I did my first project about being autonomous with my own solar energy, my own shower, recycling the water, I also realized in that period that it's only about technique. I was only thinking about how to make my house function in a technical way. And then I realized it's stupid to make my own peanut butter. Because there's other people who make peanut butter, or in my case, in the village, there's guys who has honey, or they have plowmen. Plums.
Yeah.
So I have another tree that I can change.
Maybe it's difficult to grow peanuts.
In Germany it still is, yeah. It will be in the future, it will become better, but it's still difficult, yeah.
And the other kind of question I wanted to ask you was, what's the measure of success for the project you did in the small, what you call the small city?
Yeah.
I mean, you were talking kind of against the sort of capitalist system a lot, but then it seems like the measure of success is the fact that 7 houses got sold. There's got to be something better.
Yeah, but they were not sold on project developers, they were sold on people who want to live there themselves. So the success for me is that there's a life in the street again.
Right.
And at the same time, which is, I think more of you have the same, it's so difficult to work on projects. Already the word project is in a way horrible, because you are living there, or you're working there with real people who live there, who spend their life there, and you just pass by for a year or 2 years, and you close again. That's why I like teaching. In 5 years you give them a diploma, and no one says you send them out. Everyone is celebrating. They have a paper, and you can close. So teaching has a very nice ending, and doing a project never has an ending.
No, I mean, it's like it reminded me of a project I was involved with in Shanghai, in a kind of really crazy old estate that Chairman Mao had built for the very special workers, the workers in the factories who were the best. And me and my students went out there to see what we could do as a kind of public art project. And we decided to mend the public furniture that was kind of actually quite dangerous at that point. So we did a whole, quite a similar, but on a much smaller scale, project, as yours. And we did a planting thing, we did a cinema, and we repaired the public furniture with these kind of beautiful pale blue cast concrete plinths that acted as tables and chairs, and it was forbidden by Chairman Mao and the local government to actually play cards, mahjong, the game in public, because it was like a gambling thing. And before the furniture was kind of finished, the old guys and the old women were coming out to play on using the tables. And I thought, this is pretty good, this project. I was pretty happy with it. And then I met my colleague, my Chinese colleague, about a month ago, and I said, "Hey, Lu Jian, how are they looking?" He said, the plants are all being stolen, nobody's looking after the repair job, and it's like, you have the edge on us artists because you have this key, you have the secret, you can kind of like get money, you can do projects under the auspices of being the town planner. So congratulations.
No, but the question comes back now. This project, is it for you a success or not?
Well, I mean, I don't really believe that art can kind of change the world. I mean, art kind of points things out in some way. And there was a lot of kind of connections with my students and the local people. It was immensely interesting to sort of be part of that. And as a minute project, 5,000 quid, which is what it took. It was successful, but what happens after when you leave and nobody kind of cares?
Yeah.
It's quite depressing.
Yeah, but you can also say, there were some guys who had a nice evening and they play cards and it cost only $5,000.
Yes, no, for sure. And then you realise afterwards that they didn't really want those plants that you chose.
Yeah,
they wanted red ones, and you had a bit like your knitting, which brings me to one more question. Where is the knitting? Where is the Knitted
Right now,
house.
you mean?
Yes.
They store it in the village, in the
Okay.
city hall,
Right.
to use it.
For occasion or?
Yeah, but I don't think there will be. Oh no, no. There will be an occasion when I will put it out again.
Right.
But it's all the stuff we make there. Only the stuff which was really dirty after a year we
Yeah.
remove.
Right.
But the red trumpet and the metro station they want to keep. And it's still there in the village. I write every year a letter to the mayor. Be careful. It's all made temporary. So it's not made as art in public space. It's just a temporary playing item. But for me, that's success that they want to have it. And
Yes.
of course, I'm more happy that they want to have it and put it there in their street.
Yes, because what else would you do with it?
Yeah, I can put it in my working space,
Yeah,
but then
yeah.
it's standing around there. But on the other hand, if I can't sleep and thinking about the red stuff, it's quite heavy, it's metal. If it falls down
Yes.
and it hits someone, and I'm not sure if they check it every week. Well, I'm sure they don't. So you have to, I don't know how to handle it. And now the mayor has changed, there's a new one.
Yes.
So that's also, it's real life. So you have to, every now and then, check out. I will go there now in October for a debate again, and then, I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, so the bottom line of being quite a practical person, often things are to do with money, aren't they? I mean, we have this situation in the UK where you can buy yourself some sun reflectors to make energy, but yet nobody knows. It's going to take 25 years for you to pay them off, and nobody knows whether that money comes back or, you know, who's got the money really to buy these things. And so I think, without sort of sounding over moral, Tom, everybody probably in this room is doing small things to try and, you know, make life kind of better.
But maybe it's nice to make more of a competition out of moral. Instead of putting it away and more or less feeling ashamed, that we start to celebrate the winning parts of it. Because I must say, it's really, that's one of the nice things of Germany, that you can have a loan for solar on your roof.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not mine, although it's on my roof, but I borrow the money from a bank, and they make it that you can pay it back in 12 years with the energy you are selling to the government.
To the main, yeah.
And that system is perfect. That's why they quit it already, because it's made in the country.
Yes.
But having this energy on your roof, knowing I produce 5 times as much energy as I use, it is so much fun. Reading all the time in the newspapers that it's going back with the energy, we have a problem. And I said, I'm not. 5 times. I call Putin and say, hey, what do we do with this electricity price next year? We are both producers of energy, and it's really a nice feeling. And of course it has to do a lot with money, but on the same time, the best projects, you know as well, are the projects without money.
Yes,
they are always the most fun.
And what struck me also with your home, your estate, as we call it, is how beautifully kind of made everything is. You know, beautifully designed. But Ton, you're a bit naughty because you kept on talking about I, and you have a wife, and there's, you know, this is not made by one person.
No, and I have a group of people I worked like I'm not a designer, and I know if I made a fridge, it will never look like this one.
Okay, that's interesting to know.
Then there's people helping, and of course, you can't do it alone.
Yeah. Do you think anyone would like to ask questions?
Thank you for the talk. I'm quite interested in the in your as well. You are saying on your profession, urban planner. But from the project we saw, it is actually more artistic projects. And what I would say art in the city, it's most about experimenting. It's like temporary actions. But as you are telling, as an urban planner, then it should go, I would say, more in direction design, which means more sustainable design for the city. Do you see the same division? How you would comment on that, design versus art in the city, from your perspective?
Well, I think because urban planning is going more in this concrete asphalt material, they're missing the point what the city is really about. So studying urbanism nowadays is much more about technique and how to transform concrete into a city, and not about how to work with the people who are living there. And in a way, it's true that by doing this kind of work, it's not. But in a way, that's why I'm here, talking to artists and not to urbanists. That I realize myself as well that by doing this kind of work, I'm becoming more and more in the art field. And since I'm quite new in the art field, in a way, I can be very naive and say, okay, that means that the solution of the world problem is not longer in urban planning, but maybe it's in the art. And if you define this work of art, I'm very happy, I can live with that. I will say it's urban planning because I can make more money going into the projects if it's urban planning. That's other, that's other politic organization. And I think, in fact, of course, it's the same. Inside the art, you have also the people who only go for the technique and who are really thinking in how to use the technique into surprising or beautiful ways. And you have the more social sides. And also in urban planning, the social is becoming very, very, very strong the last 3, 4, 5 years. So in that sense, I'm very hopeful that it's the social part which we neglected before the finance crisis is now very strong coming back in the art as well as in the urban planning.
Yeah, but I would think that in the art field there is nobody who really thinks art can change the world, but you as urbanists, you think, don't you?
Yeah. You don't think there's artists who change the world?
I think it's the different type of claim we're talking about.
Well, but maybe this change of the world has to do also with my profession in the end is teaching. I'm doing a lot of projects, but on a moment like this, talking and explaining, and that's why I feel at home. And what I realize is that also in universities you see that the world outside is taking over. So there's a lot of companies who put money in a university and they can decide who is the professor, and then they tell the professor how to educate the students, that the students on the moment they left the school, the first Monday morning they go to work, they sit behind a desk and they know exactly how to run into the business. And I think the university is there to teach a better world, because if you agree with the world outside the university, you don't have to go into a university. You can go outside and make money and work. The moment you are in a university, you have a question. And for me, that question should be, how can we make a better world? And then I want to teach my students how to make a better world. And then at least until the first coffee break on the first day that they are working, that they are annoying the chief of the company. And then after coffee break, they will be, but we have to fight for that. And I don't agree that we have a world outside, which is nice, because we just see that all of us is wearing clothes which we don't want. So I think we have a huge problem to handle the coming years, because we are prisoners of our own society, if you make it very black and white. That's stupid. I think I'm the most educated person on the earth, not me as a person, but we. Most of the people don't even have a school education in the world. I have a university, which is really, not to be arrogant, but it's really exclusive to have a university education. And how is it possible that even I, with the best education in the world, are not able to stand those problems? That's horrible.
Yeah, but perhaps it's not a question of art and urbanism, but a question of capitalism, society, politics, democracy, and so on. And perhaps we cannot solve the problems of our society within our, techniques of art and urbanism. No?
Within, maybe that's the problem, that we are thinking within these segments. does it matter if I'm architect or urban planner? I'm just human being having fun in the world. So the moment, actually, when I entered the lecture this afternoon, the lunch lecture, stepping in your classroom in the dark, the first thought in my mind, oh my God, art atmosphere. It was so art talk and art feeling. And I immediately feel it. I'm not from that education. Of course, I'm old enough that I recognize it, but it was my first, and I think that's, in fact, it's horrible that we have these segments in our, because that's exactly the problem. I only concern about urban planning, so I don't have to concern about my clothes. There's other companies, I do a lecture here, I organize a lecture, I don't care about the electricity, that's the guy who owns this place, it's not my business. That's exactly the problem, that by having these segments of where you are responsible, we are not responsible for the other thing. Actually, it's the guy of this house who gave me the glass, but it's the guy of the organization who pulls water from a plastic bottle, which is not nice to do that to me because I'm your guest. So why do you want to poison me? You know, that kind of questions, we don't ask them anymore. And we know it all.
Any more comments? Yeah.
I think there is one definition of stupidity, which is, I say the German now, it is the term of Verdrängung or refoulement. What is it in English? You understand, yes? The Freudian term of Verdrängung or refoulement, and in English it is...
The guy next, behind knows the word.
Suppression.
Suppression, exactly, thank you. Thank you. So I think it's not a question of urban planning or arts, you see, but it is that the individual, the person, links with its surrounding, and this makes the point of living art or living urbanism which is alive, you see. I mean to make honest links without suppression. I mean not to suppress, because this divides you always from yourself and from the world.
Yeah.
But to create possibilities, it's not a question of art or urbanism. To have a lived relationship, what in the moment, every day, with your surrounding. And if you don't do this in art and don't do it in urbanism, it cannot work.
Yeah.
I mean,
but there's a lot of things which we suppress, which as a society are very good, I think.
Yeah.
That we behave as humans and not killing and so it's difficult to find what is suppression and what is bad behavior and what is smart.
Do you have other comments first?
I have a question about your project in Wittenburg, about the sustainability of this project. You told me, or you told us that now the mayor is still talking about the projects and the sculptures are still there, or the installative works are there, and that 7 houses were bought. But how did the atmosphere in the city somehow changed? Are people now more in contact with each other, or is it like back to normality like it was before, or what did it really change? So is there this utopian idea that with this project, with your intervention, really changed something, or did it only change for a nice autumn and winter and a couple of weeks of good workshops and so on? So how's the situation now, 2 years after?
It's in fact the same question, is it a success or not? And I think, of course, you have to define it for yourself, and for me it's a success, because we had a lot of fun working there. But it's in the small things that the mayor says that since this project, the city council meetings are more lively. That there's more people have the guts to speak and to... I can't prove it because I'm not there. I like to hear this. I want to hear this, of course. There's 7 houses sold, I like it. But in a way, if I'm now going there, I see the same dull village as it was before. Because you don't see in a house if there's an owner or not. The house still looks the same. You know, it takes some years to have the money, to have it organized. So it's really difficult. It's difficult to... Now, in fact, the question is not so difficult because I think it's a success, because I have a good story, you like it, the village is still there, people are happy, so in a way it's a success. But the success you are mentioning now, that the world changed, that some utopian fairy tale come up, no, that's not happening. And the guys who are the most involved in the project, like the lady who was in charge of the knitting group, is of course the lady who was already in charge of all the processes going on in this village. That's the guys who are immediately there, and she was the lady who says, I know the story of Potyomkin. She's my biggest friend. If I go there, you know, that's... So it's difficult. But I think it's, like I said to you, the fact that there's 2 people playing this card play one evening and have a good time. I like that there's 50 people who did this knitting event, and that moment they will never forget as well. Like I remember it, they will remember it as well. And that's, I think, yeah, you should celebrate those successes. Otherwise you get depressed, because it's clear, right? Everyone's still wearing the clothes, although I offer you to go naked behind the thing. No one's doing it.
So you also would like to say something?
You told us on the very beginning that, or advised us that we should move to the village.
Yeah.
And I came from village, and I'm now since 10 years living in a city, and I'm very thinking seriously to move back. But there is just one problem, one big problem for me, you know, to lose this connection with the theater, galleries, library, all this stuff, cultural stuff around. And how did you deal with that, actually? This is my question.
Yeah, when I lived in Rotterdam, I had my family started. I had 2 children. Then it's a lot of work, in a way. It's not work. It's a lot of fun having children, but you don't have that much time for theater anymore. And since I moved away from the city, like once in a month, for 2-3 days, I am back in the city, because I visit my friends, or I have the appointments for the work, and I realized then that I'm visiting more theater, cinema, etc. since I'm living on the countryside. Because if you live in the city and you pass the theater every day, but you should calculate how much time you really went into the theater. If that's 2 times a year, you had a good year. Not for everyone, but for a lot of us. And the moment you live, but I like, if you are from the countryside, and I go for 3 days to Rotterdam, and I call in some friends and say, hey, I'm in town, shall we have a beer? And then they say, no, I can't, I have to take my children to the school or whatever. And then I say, oh, I'll go to the theater, and then for 3 days I'm living this urban life, and then I go back in this urban energetic way.
Just, I have this problem with spending a lot of energy on traveling, you know, like...
You have a car?
Yeah, we have.
How many hours you were in traffic jam last week?
We don't have so big traffic jams.
Okay, that's good. I have no problem. I'm like I said, I'm now a professor in Linz. Every second week I will travel 13 hours up and 13 hours down.
In
you
train?
go in the train, yeah. So I like it. It's a lot of time, I agree, but you take a book, we can work, or just sit
but
back
I'm
and
not
relax.
talking about time, but about energy, like, you know, oil you are using.
Trains are supposed to be the worst, actually. Or one of the worst.
No, but wait. Now,
In the UK they are.
if you want, you can make everything bad behavior. I'm breathing right now, which mentions a lot of CO2 coming out of my mouth. So
Let's finish this.
Just picking on you now, Tom.
She was saying that driving a car is bad behavior, but mobility is really bringing a lot of good thing in the world. The bad thing about mobility is petrol. But I like technology as I hate it, and there is possibilities of driving in an electric car. The problem is that we don't do it, like we don't change our clothes selling, buying, etc., etc. So I don't agree of breaking down mobility because we're still burning oil. We should solve the problem of the oil. That's much more clever.
I was just wondering whether you had the nerve to discuss with the mayor whether he would bring in lots of refugees or something into the small city. It's a really great way to populate a city, isn't it, very quickly?
Yeah. Well, my next project will be coming here in Kassel, in another small village. In that sense, it was a success. I have more mayors now coming. Wanting to have the same problem, and in that village we want to make it's just an idea, so don't, but it's the inverse of the Sling and Sieve theater in Africa. Why go to Africa if Africa is here? Let's do the theater in this village near Kassel. But I will tell you or invite you.
Great.
I would like to make the suggestion to continue in the restaurant, which is called Stromerei, just more or less next door. You're all invited. I'm only have the to say thank you, and I would like to say thank you to Bärbel Hartje, who did organize all these events, to Sebastian Schindlau, who is our perfect technician tonight, Anna Schlisselberger, who is also working with us, Robert Gieshammer, the translator, Sina Moser for the videos, which you can see online in YouTube, and Anton Guck, who is the director of this location, gave us the possibility to be here, and of course you both, and you all who listened so long. I hope you come with us to the Trümmer.
Sebastian's behind the wall with no clothes on.